Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Examine Life. So today we're going to be taking a look at the concept of gaslighting. As a concept or the maneuver or the tactic, I should say, of gaslighting by a narcissist. And this is a very insidious type of behavior by the narcissist. It's insidious because it's very hard to put your finger on it until something clicks for you. And I'm going to give you an example. I have so many examples of this, but I'm going to give you a recent example of gaslighting by a narcissistic friend / acquaintance now. Things kind of fizzled out between me and the person, but so let's take a look at a definition of what gaslighting is. If you're new to the topic of narcissistic abuse, we're going to take a look at a definition. So gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation that seeks to sow seeds of doubt in a targeted individual or in a member of a targeted group, making them question their own memory, perceptions, and sanity. Using persistent denial, misdirection, contradiction, and lying, it attempts to destabilize the victim and delegitimize the victim's belief. And down here, it just kind of gives a little background of where the term came from. It was from a play, a 1938 play that was later on became a movie. Yeah, I saw the movie. It was with Ingrid Bergman and Charles Boyer. Yeah, and it was a really interesting movie. It was about this actress, or I think she might have been an opera singer. Ingrid Bergman plays this opera singer, and she gets involved with this man, Charles Boyer, and he claims to be like this really, I don't know if he's a professor or something, a musical professor or something like that, but he's not. He's a fraud. He's a con man, and she inherits this. I think she inherits this house, and there are these diamonds or some kind of jewels that are in the attic of the house, and so he every night, after they're married, every night he goes up into the attic and he looks for the jewels. And when he does this, he has to turn the light on. So he turns they had gas lights back in those days, I guess. And whenever he turns the light on up in the attic brightly to see where he's searching for the jewels, the lights in the living room where the Ingrid Bergman character starts to dim, and all of a sudden she starts to, when he's not there, whenever he's not there, she notices the lights get dimmer, and so she brings this to his attention, and he tells her, no, it's just your imagination. But he's starting to figured out that when he turns the lights on upstairs, it dims the lights in the living room. So it's they came from the act of him trying to cover up his actions of looking for the jewels. He's lying. He's trying to twist her reality so that she doesn't catch on, keep her confused so she doesn't figure out what he's doing. And that's where the essence of, that's the point of when we say someone's being gaslighted. It comes from that movie to where the character is doing this to this poor woman, and he's driving her insane because she can't remember whether she did this or she didn't do that. Like, for example, there would be a picture on the wall and the picture would disappear, and then he would turn around and accuse her of taking it, and she'd say, oh no, I didn't take it, that kind of a thing. And he'd move it to another place in the house or hide it somewhere, and then accuse her of not remembering. I don't remember, I might have done it, I don't remember. This kind of questioning her own sanity or her own memory or what she thought happened. And you go through your life and you do stuff, and all of a sudden you don't remember something, one minuscule little thing, right? And it throws you off. So gaslighting that's where the term gaslighting came from. Anyways, it's a very insidious thing because it can go on for years. It can go on for years and take different forms, different lies, denial. Oh, I've been gaslighted in so many ways by so many people. And whenever you try to pin them down on it, they get evasive. Okay? And they'll use all kinds of tactics, including some of the 11 tactics. I have this little article here that I found. The 11 warning signs of gaslighting. This was actually a pretty good article. It says gaslighting is a tactic in which a person or entity, in order to gain more power, makes a victim question their reality. And it lists off 11 good ones, which I could tell you stories about. Practically every one of these I could tell you a story about. But I'll try to run through them really quickly. But I want to tell you this interesting thing that happened. I just it ended the friendship, in my opinion. So, but the first one is they tell blatant lies. You know, like, for example, they say something and you heard them say it, and then they turn around and deny and say, no, I never said that. Yes, you did. I know you said that. I remember you saying that. No, I never said that. Or, no, you misunderstood. No, I'm not saying that doesn't happen. It does happen. But when it happens so often to where you're really questioning your sanity, that's a big red flag right there. They deny they ever said something. Yeah, that's example what I just said. You know, something I want to make a little caveat regarding that one, though, also, is if somebody has dementia, or the beginning stages of dementia, they sometimes will tell some fibs along the way to cover up the fact that they have dementia. So, or the beginning, memory loss and things like that. So that's something you should consider depending on the age of the person who you believe might be a narcissist. And sometimes narcissists will develop, I don't know if there was an actual study on this, but they were looking at narcissistic behavior and if it ever led to things like Alzheimer's and things like that. I remember coming across some kind of an article about that. I don't know. I can't say for sure if that would lead to something like that, because when you're doing things like gaslighting, you're really doing mental acrobatics, on somebody. So, number 3, they will use what is near and dear to you as ammunition. Oh yeah. And that's something, by the way, I'm going to talk about. I'm going to go in a different aspect later on in other videos about how I do things regarding narcissists, because I've been raised by narcissists and have had them in every aspect of my life, to the point of where, I've been abused by them. And when it wasn't until I started to recognize the maneuvers and the stuff that's being said, that I realized that a lot of the people that I have encountered in my life have been narcissists on some degree or another. And in my opinion, manipulating a narcissist back isn't necessarily morally wrong. I don't believe it is. And I'll go into that in another video too. The next one is they will wear you down over time, which is true, and that's part of the insidiousness of gaslighting and of being in a relationship with a narcissist, basically. They're emotional and mental vampires. They will wear you down, and that's part of how they get control over somebody. So it's kind of like that. I was going to give the analogy of a frog they call it a frog in the frying pan, but actually it's more like a frog in a boiling pot. You get a pot with cool water or lukewarm water, and you put a frog in it. If you boiled the water and threw the frog into the pot, the frog would jump out. rather than get boiled. But if you put the frog in a pot of, room temperature water and then slowly turn the heat up, the frog will actually stay in the pot until it cooks itself to death. It will adapt over, and every time as the temperature rises, it will start to slowly adapt to each rising temperature. As opposed to if you threw it shockingly into the pot, it would jump out. So it's kind of the same way with human beings, in that initially when they love bomb you, then all of a sudden the relationship starts to change in the opposite direction, where they become abusive, and then that's where they try to get control into you, to get their talons into you. And it's over time, but then they will start to devalue you, and and then bring you back in and do the love bombing again and all that kind of stuff. The next part of it is their actions do not match their words. Pretty much, yeah. I will go in more detail about that. They throw in positive reinforcement to confuse you. So basically they'll give you a compliment. In other words, they're really abusive, and then all of a sudden they'll throw in a nice little compliment there. And you're like, oh, that was so worth it. Not really, but yeah, sure, I'll put up your stuff some more for that little crumb that you just threw me. They know confusion weakens people. Yeah. But the interesting thing about that is, what? When you finally reach a decision within yourself, when you're trying to move away from a narcissistic relationship or stuff like that, you finally get to the point where you're saying, I don't have to figure this person out. I really don't have to figure this person out. That's where the confusion comes in, and why they keep you confused, because you're sitting there trying to figure them out. And it's like, well, you need to figure yourself out. Why am I stuck in this relationship with this person? Well, it might be because you need them. It could be that, they're part of your workplace. Things like that. They project. This is a big one, and this is a topic I'm going to go into. Basically, that's a maneuver. When you catch them in a lie, when you try exposing them, they'll turn around and they'll project it right onto you. And I just recently had a situation where the person was very abusive to me, and I was trying to tell somebody, hey, I'm being abused here, and she turned around and she turned it around on me. It was a big projective thing. She was projecting onto me, and she was calling me everything that she was. And this is where they tell on themselves. They will, whatever they're saying about you is what they are. So they try to align people against you. This is where you have the topic of flying monkeys. The truth is, the only people who really take their side are their flying monkeys, their minions. And I will go into another video about that, more specifically, because I got stories to tell about that. They tell you or others that you are crazy. Again, this is part of the flying monkey topic here. Because the truth is, the people who believe this stuff is the flying monkeys, the people who are supporting them because they're getting something out of it, or they may also be little mini narcissists themselves, or maybe full-blown narcissists, They like to associate together. Actually, some people say narcissists don't get along. They get along as long as they can somehow sponge off of each other. That's why you have these different types of narcissists that, they pair up, and it can go on for quite a while, but it usually ends up being, like there can be only one kind of a thing. I'll tell you an interesting story about another person. It's hilarious, but anyways, they tell you everyone is a liar. Yeah, basically, because the people who are liars are the ones who see through their crap and who flat out call them out on it. And then that's when they turn on them and say, now so-and-so's a liar. Yes, all these people are liars. Yeah. Sure, buddy. Why would these people lie? Why? That you would know these many people who lie. What's the point? Why lie? Why would they be lying? And the people who are the victims of the narcissist, they will remain stuck in this dynamic with the narcissist because of cognitive dissonance, by the way, which is a topic I'm going to go into next. But this is like 11 signs of narcissism, of gaslighting, let's put it that way. These are the tactics that they use. So let's talk about, I'm going to tell you the story now of gaslighting, about how a narcissistic friend, and I use the word loosely, gaslighted me. And I was kind of aware of it because I've been studying narcissism for so long now that I knew I was being gaslighted, but I didn't quite know how I was being gaslighted or why. So this is how it goes. This narcissist, her name, I might as well just use her real name, or at least her first name. Her name is Susie. And she has this little dog. It's a Papillon. And she takes the little dog everywhere she goes. It's a service animal to her. And she's adorable. So what happened was we went on this trip, this road trip out to another part of where another suburb, I guess you could call it, or another neighborhood. And it was kind of a long trip. And while we were there, her car, the dog she's sort of kind of old already. She's about 10 years old or so. And she suffers from cataracts. So she has everything's blurry. But we were driving at night. So, and the interior of her car is black. So she put the dog in the back seat. And the dog was wrapped up in this towel. And as we were driving, we were talking and stuff like that. It was pretty cool. And then what happens is, the little dog starts growling, and whining and growling, and she says, and so she's getting concerned about the little dog. And I'm getting concerned about the little dog too. And I'm listening. I'm like, what's going on back there? She knows what the problem is. Okay. But she doesn't tell me. So it gets worse and worse as we're driving. So we go out to this place, and there's a Mexican restaurant there, and we're eating. We went to go eat, and then the dog had to take a poop. So she takes the dog out of the car, and she makes a big poop. And we figure, oh, well, she's okay. She's better now. Seems like she's feeling better. So the dog goes back in the back seat. We're driving along some more. It's dark. And all of a sudden we hear this whining. And it's a whining type of thing. She's very uncomfortable. And I was having this conversation about something else, but at this point, the dog's little misery that's going on back there is taking precedence over the conversation. And so she reaches back there. She says, now she doesn't turn the light on. And I was like, I turned the light on and to take a look in the back seat to see what was going on. And then she quickly turns the light off. She says, don't turn that on. It's blinding me. And I'm like, okay, so how am I supposed to see what's going on with the dog? She says, don't just go back there and see what's happening. Now, I can't see nothing. It's dark, right? Keeping me in the dark. So all I see is a little white dog and a towel. And the seats are all black. And so the little dog gets up and walks over to the other side of the back seat. And then a little while later, she starts moaning. She said, well, she seems a little better now. She walked over to the other side of the seat. But then she starts whining again. And then she starts picking on her foot. You can see her digging on her foot. And I said, but she's moaning and whining even harder, and she says, I'm scared. I'm scared. And she goes, I'm scared. Bring her up here. So I reached back and I grabbed the little dog and I put her, and she sits on her little mommy's lap there while she's driving. And the dog starts to calm down. But she said, I have to take her to the hospital. It's an emergency. So she drives, and she's getting all frantic. And she's like, go look for a hospital, a 24-hour emergency room for animals, So I pull out my phone, and I'm doing this, and she says, can you turn the light down in your phone? Because it's dark, and she's shining it, and she says, it's distracting. And so she's getting more angry and stuff like that, and she's putting me down with these little weird comments. And my phone was having a hard time connecting as we were driving. And so we were coming back into town, and she was looking for this, like an open 24-hour, veterinarian type of place. And so she says, I know where there's one. So she's speeding, practically on the verge of speeding to the thing. And the poor little dog she's much better now while she was sitting on the lap. But she's trying to play it up as if that she's worse. Like she's so, awful. She was definitely still whining a little bit, but not as much anymore. And she grabbed the little foot and she was trying to massage the foot. And then we pull into the driveway of the emergency room of the veterinary hospital emergency room. She gets out, she grabs the dog, she gets out, and she says, go park the car. So I park the car. I find it's the first spot there, and I make the turn, and I park the car. And then I turn the light on, and then I get up, and I lock the door. I'm getting ready to lock the door, and I close the door, and then I look into the back seat of the car, and that white towel that I was telling you about, it was crawling with cockroaches. And at that point, I was like, okay, now I get it. Okay. That was pretty cruel, in my opinion, of what she was doing to the dog. She knew, first of all, that the car had a cockroach infestation. Okay. But she was doing this drama, trying to make me feel bad that we were out on the road driving around, because I wanted to go to the other place to go talk. And she let this drama go on. Okay. She didn't pull it to my attention that she knew there was a cockroach infestation in the car. She had mentioned it. Over a week ago, prior to that drive that we had taken. Okay. I didn't know how bad it was. But when I looked, just before the lights went out, I locked the doors, I looked in the back, and that towel was crawling with cockroaches. Okay. That's how I figured out. And then, so what happens is she goes into I didn't make the connection exactly. I just saw it with my eyes. And I was sitting there thinking, that couldn't have been the reason, was it? Okay, this is where I have a little bit of cognitive dissonance going on there. But I go into the emergency room. We go in there and we sit down. And she goes, oh, she's looking so much better now. Look at how she's walking. And she's feeling so much better now. Isn't that wonderful? And I'm smiling. And after we sped, for over 5 miles to get to the emergency room, she's perfectly fine. Of course she's perfectly fine, because there was nothing wrong with her. She was being attacked by cockroaches in the back seat. And it was basically a big gaslight. She thought it was funny. And she figured that I didn't figure it out. But I told her, yeah, I'm glad that she's better, And she goes, I don't know what's going on. She knew. She totally knew what was going on. That's what kind of stuff she pulls. She pulls these gaslights where, she likes the drama. She likes creating drama. And I guess she thought it was funny, or to stress me out, that the little dog was all sick and everything, and she wasn't sick. I could tell she wasn't sick. There was something bothering her. But I didn't know that about the cockroach infestation in the back of the seat. So she hides the fact that there was a cockroach infestation in the back seat the next time I talked to her on the phone. She says, oh, well, I had to go and take my car in for cleaning. Oh, yeah. But she had already mentioned the cockroaches the week before, and I think she forgot. But yeah, that's like an example of gaslighting. Basically, she's trying to give me the perception that the poor little dog was an emergency and sick, and and I wasn't doing, like, she was trying to make it seem like I wasn't being helpful. And I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? You're the one driving. This is your car. But that's why she told me to turn the light off. Okay, because she didn't want me to see the cockroaches. Then I'd be on it right there, because the truth is, the reason the dog was not comfortable was because of her, not because of me. Not that she was exactly blaming me, but she certainly was taking me for a ride, and she probably was being very amused. She was amused by what she was doing. But I didn't feel, after it was over, I didn't feel like I could trust her anymore. And I felt that she was willing to put her little dog, through that kind of crap. She knew. She totally knew. And it wasn't like the first time. She does that to other people too. And she thinks it's funny. And things started to go awry after that, because I knew I couldn't really trust her. But anyways, that was my example of gaslighting. Kind of an interesting little tale. I've had other stories about gaslighting too. And I'll tell you about them at another time. I should actually have a whole, I should do another one on gaslighting and tell you another story. It's really, I got tons of them. And it's sadly, it's like I don't realize it until it's over, and that's probably why, you're probably in the same situation. You're like, was I just gaslighted? I've had friends who do that. I feel like I'm like, was I just totally manipulated? Darn it. And then I try to stay away from those people, and then I end up being back at their door again. And then by the end of the meeting, I feel like I've just been gaslighted again. So I make it a point to, I've kind of gotten to the point where, I don't expect narcissists to be anything other than narcissist. And that's really the best thing that you can do for yourself in terms of expectations. And I will go into a very crucial video about expectations, because it's our expectations that partly keep us getting involved with, not just getting involved, but keeping us involved with narcissists, and trying to believe that they're following the same rules that we're following, when really they're not. It's like everybody will, it's like what's the word? What comes around goes around type of thing. That's actually not true for the narcissist. They don't feel that the rules apply to them. That's another story again for another video, but I just wanted to give you a little background on what gaslighting is about. Please subscribe and leave a comment if you wish, and I will be back. And you can tell your story if you wish on your in the lower comment section. Be more than happy to hear from anybody. Thanks a lot. All right, bye-bye.